Chapter 305, The Rock Crack Incident. Under the illusory introspection state, a slightly shimmering gray curve appeared on Zutui's spleen. This time, Zutui could clearly see that there were a total of 8 genetic base points on the curve. He instantly memorized the 8 genetic base points. He visualized the mountain formula, and a genetic ability chain appeared under the illusory introspective state. He made another discovery after observing the area for a few minutes. This most obvious genetic chain curve seemed to be just a main line. 2 or 3 more genetic ability chains extended from this genetic ability chain. However, there was only a faint trend. It was very blurry and chaotic. If he wanted to see it clearly, he would probably have to cultivate the mountain formula's genetic ability chain. Perhaps it was a coincidence. Perhaps it was born that way, but the genetic ability chain of the mountain formula, which was formed by the 8 genetic base points of the mountain formula, also faintly formed the word mountain. In the next moment, Zutui exited the illusory introspection state and disconnected from the original quantum frequency of the mountain. Then, he immediately drank a bottle of level D energy restoration elixir. He started working. He started from the first genetic base point of the genetic ability chain that he had just discovered. Zutui's powerful mind power and the abundant energy from the level D energy restoration elixir allowed him to activate the first genetic base point of the genetic ability chain in 15 minutes. Zutui stopped focusing and activated it. From his meditative state, he once again sensed the original quantum frequency of the mountain. He used his mind power to materialize the original quantum frequency of the mountain into this character. Almost at the same time, the first genetic base point of the mountain genetic ability chain that had just begun to form in Zutui's spleen flickered. There was also a faint outline of the word mountain in the position of the spleen. The word mountain only had one spot that looked very real, the other parts were all illusory. At the same time, Zutui sensed in his mind that there was a magical connection between the mountain character that appeared at the location of his spleen and the mountain character that was formed by the original quantum frequency that he sensed with his mind power. Through the mountain character on the inside, Zutui could control the mountain character on the outside. In theory, as long as the original quantum frequency of the mountain existed in a place and was within the range of Zutui's mental perception, it could appear and unleash its power at any time. 40 meters away, Zutui's mountain-shaped form, which was only the size of a watermelon, landed slightly. Bang! Explosion sound. A huge rock that was 1 meter square instantly shattered into pieces. This power was very impressive. However, in the next moment, Zutui realized that he seemed to have caused a little trouble. Cheng Mo, who was on night duty, blew his whistle. However, he did not rush over to check on the situation immediately. Instead, he lit up his lighting equipment and looked around warily. Almost at the same time, Gong Ling and Zuo Qingqing also rushed out of the tent. "Turn off the lights!" Zhu Qingqing was the first to shout. Cheng Mo did not quite understand. In the wild, if you turn on the lights, you'll be in the open when the enemy is in the dark. Zuo Qingqing was very knowledgeable when it came to field experience. Zutui also awkwardly crawled out of the tent. He wanted to explain, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. He would treat it as a drill for the 2 rookies, Cheng Mo and Gong Ling. The 4 of them did not discover anything after 20 minutes. In the end, they could only classify the crack as a natural phenomenon. However, it was obvious that they had to be extra careful during their night shift. Zutui did not stay idle when he returned to the tent. The energy from the level D energy restoration elixir was still there. He continued to cultivate. 20 minutes later, the second genetic base point of the mountain genetic ability chain was activated. The mountain character that he materialized became a third larger. Another 30 minutes later, the third genetic base point of the mountain genetic ability chain was activated. Another 45 minutes later, the fourth genetic base point of the mountain genetic ability chain was activated. The effect of a bottle of level D energy restoration elixir had been completely exhausted. At the same time, Zutui's mind power had dropped to less than 50% due to the consumption during the day and his training. It was already below the cordon. Even if Zutui wanted to completely activate the mountain genetic ability chain tonight, he could not do that. He could cultivate every day, but if he encountered an accident, he only had one life. Zutui had gained a lot after activating 4 genetic base points in a row. When he used the mountain formula, half of the mountain-shaped genetic ability chain at the location of the spleen had become solid. The other half was still illusory because it had not been activated. What surprised Zutui the most was the change in the character mountain that he had sensed. When the first genetic base point of the mountain character was activated, it was only the size of a watermelon. Every time he activated the genetic base points of the mountain genetic ability chain, Zutui realized that the character he could materialize would become bigger to a certain extent. After activating 4 genetic base points, the word materialize was larger than a single-person desk. It was more than 80 centimeters wide. It also had that heavy feeling. Zutui felt that it would not be easy to deal with if he hit this on someone's head. Even if it was not fatal, its weight could cause great trouble for the opponent. The key was that this thing had the weight of a mountain, but it was invisible. Within the range of Zutui's mental perception or the range of the mountain's perception, it could be materialized at any time. This was a little wretched. Even if he was not suppressed, he would still be badly injured. If he activated a few more genetic base points from the mountain genetic ability chain, he would be able to use the word suppress. As for the remaining 4 genetic base points of the mountain genetic ability chain, he would probably activate them in 2 to 3 days in the wilderness. In that case, from today onwards, I can be considered a being with supernatural abilities. Or am I the kind of being that would give a mountain to a person? Zutui fell asleep peacefully with a heart full of joy. He had spent a longer time cultivating today, so he was woken up after 4 hours of sleep. It was his turn to be on night duty. However, Zutui only had 40% of his mind power before that. He could recover half of his mind power after 3 hours of undisturbed sleep. 4 hours was enough for his mind power to return to its peak state. The only trouble was that he felt that he had not slept enough and did not want to get up. He just wanted to stay in bed. Zutui could still laze around in bed if he was at home. If he was urged by his mother 3 or 4 times, he could occasionally take the opportunity to vent his anger. Unfortunately, once a person grew up, many things that seemed simple would be lost. Zutui was still cultivating during the 2 hours of night duty. However, he did not dare to use his mind power to activate his genetic base points. He still had to use his mind power during the day. He could not use it in large amounts. Zutui mainly continued to sense the original quantum frequency of the mountain. According to Kukingshan, sensing the original quantum frequency of a certain material or phenomenon was just the beginning. It was just like a student who had gone through painstaking means and sweat to finally get into the university he liked and chose the corresponding specialization. However, this was only the beginning. The subsequent studies and research were almost endless. Why was Jigi able to suppress everyone in the same year after sitting for 5 years? The most fundamental reason was that Jigi's perception and resonance of the mountain's original quantum frequency had reached a very high level. The deeper the sensitivity and resonance of the original quantum frequency of the mountain, the greater the power of the mountain formula. Of course, Zutui still had an advantage in this aspect. According to Kukingshan, after sensing the original quantum frequency in a certain aspect, the strength of one's comprehension and microscopic perception were the key points of continuous cultivation. Due to the rock crack incident last night, Gong Ling and Zuo Qingqing did not rest well. On the other hand, Cheng Mo, who had gone to rest after the incident, looked very energetic. After breakfast, Zutui continued to give Gong Ling and Cheng Mo a wake-up call. No matter if it's the arrival of Shi Hong yesterday or the rock crack incident, we have to change camps today. At the same time, we will set off towards the coordinates of the mutated fire ape that Shi Hong gave us. Does anyone have any objections? Zutui asked. Cheng Mo and Gong Ling naturally did not have any objections. However, Zuo Qingqing bit her lips. When Zutui mentioned this again, she glared at Zutui coldly. She gritted his teeth and took off her communication device. She even pushed her to backpacks, one big and one small, in front of Zutui. Here, in case you suspect me, I'll leave my personal communication equipment to you for the time being. Also, you can check my luggage too. Zuo Qingqing gritted her teeth and said, you can take away all the electronic devices that you suspect are problematic. Sister Qingqing, Gong Ling called out softly, her intentions unclear. Cheng Mo, on the other hand, did not say anything. He looked like this was how it should be. In particular, the rock crack incident that happened in the latter half of the night had shocked them greatly. There was really an invisible crisis in the wilderness. Zhu Tui did not reject Zuo Qingqing when he saw how proactive she was. Zuo Qingqing had given Zhu Tui a chance to accept her again. Since you've taken it out, let me keep it for the time being. If you need it, look for me. Last night, you also told Cheng Mo that if the lights were on, the enemy would be in the dark and we would be in the light. I believe that you have some experience in the wild. You should understand why I did that, Zhu Tui said. Zuo Qingqing bit her lip and nodded. You can keep it, but you're not allowed to flip through it. There are many photos of me inside. Don't worry, why would I need to look at the photos when you're in front of me? Cheng Mo suddenly moved closer. Could it be that you have some raided? Before Cheng Mo could finish his sentence, he suddenly jumped and screamed. Zuo Qingqing threw a very weak lightning bolt at him. If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll give you the latest lightning hairstyle next time. Zuo Qingqing snorted at Cheng Mo. Half an hour later, the two repulsive force-flying cars set off one after another. The coordinates of the valley given by Shi Hong were not far. It was about 300 kilometers away. These coordinates were as precise as the coordinates of the grid map on a computer game. However, the range of a coordinate was about 100 kilometers. To be more specific, it was an area about 100 kilometers wide. If he wanted to find this small valley, he would still need to search manually after he reached the general area.